Okay, Youth Ministry Land. We are together once again for a fabulous episode of Truth Bombs with the Saints about a beloved saint, Saint Junipero Serra, who has actually been in the news. This is not why we picked him. His feast day is actually July 1st. That's why I picked him. But in the time between we scheduled all of these and the recording, he actually has been in the news. So I'm sure one of us will discuss that. So today I'm joined again by Miss Abbie Kohler from Net Outreach and Mr. Stephen Codekas, a seminarian in residence at St. John Neumann. Oh, fun fact, speaking of John Neumann. Yesterday I was on my phone and I was filling out a form and the form said, you know how the iPhone tries to fill things in for you? And it put first name St. John, last name Neumann. For me. Yes. It also thinks my home address is 12191 Mill Road, not my home address. It thinks it's the church address. So just fun
Mine
fact.
too.
Yeah, there you go. But you actually live there. I do not. Well, I work there a whole lot. So today we're going to talk a little bit first about Junipero Serra. We always talk about our favorite parts of their life or a favorite story that we like about the saint. So Abbie Kohler, why don't you start?
Okay, so something I love about Junipero Serra, so when I first would hear his name come up in the liturgical calendar, I would always think, I think I know him. And then I realized, I think it's because his name reminds me of like one of my old favorite scents at Bath and Body Works, which is Juniper Breeze. Thank you, Junipero Serra. Sorry that's my coronation with you, but
should totally do the scent. Abbie, I should totally do the scent question today.
It will be an easy answer. Junipero Serra or Juniper Breeze. See, now I say the wrong thing. Anyway, so as I got to know him, I have some friends and we have an office for my ministry out in LA in California. So I started to learn about these missions that were all founded by Junipero Serra. And so something that I just recently learned from a friend that works out there is that those mission churches were built by him to be about a day's walk apart. And so that if and when faithful were traveling in California, back when travel involved walking a lot, that you would never be more than a day's like walk away from a church, but also from a safe haven, like a place to stay and rest. And I also just recently learned that Junipero Serra lived a very holy but comfortable life in the church. And he could have stayed there, but midlife, I think maybe in his 50s, he decided to change directions and really go to the places that the faithful were kind of on the fringe and that people were on the fringe. And that's what led him to build the missions. And I think it's really important for me to remember that just because we've lived a life a certain way, we always have the opportunity to change and answer a call. And also that just because the Lord has led us to live a life a certain way, it doesn't mean that a different call will come later. So I appreciate his faithful witness in both of those ways.
Very, very well put. Excellent. And Mr. Stephen?
Hi.
Now you are from California originally, and I know a picture of one of his missions is behind you, so.
Yeah, one of my pictures of San Juan Capistrano, which is probably my favorite mission of the, 21. He did not build them all. He died before he could. He only built the first 9. One of them was Capistrano, which is where I am. Yay! Yeah, the California missions are so ingrained in our state history, that even though like I went to a Catholic grade school, let's see, I think 4th grade we went to San Diego to see the first one, mission San Diego de Alcala. So we actually went there, the first one, really cool. And I think it's 5th grade. Maybe it's the same year. I can't remember. That was a long time ago. But but then you actually build a mission as well. So I'm pretty sure I built a replica of,
Really?
I think it was San Luis Rey. I'm pretty sure. I think I tried to find like the smallest one, like the easiest.
That doesn't surprise me at all.
No. But this was something like even my cousins who were in like public schools, they would also build a mission.
Interesting.
So like the statewide kind of like standard, like, okay, this is the grade, you're going to do it. So it's such a part of the history. And yeah, exactly. They're meant to be a day's walk in between each other. So you could always count on the church to find a place to lay your hat, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I had to jump in on this one.
You just had to. Mr. California. That's a good thing to do.
I did. I will say, I may give a shout out at one point.
Okay.
Because I actually met a friend at this mission.
Oh.
So I doubt she'll watch it, but
That's okay. Shout outs are still good.
here we go. There you go. A little shout out. Oh, there you go.
There you go.
Okay. Back to the other one. Where'd you go?
Back to the mission picture. When I was reading and catching up on Junipero, Serra, as I was telling Abbie and Stephen before we started, my dad is a member of the Serra Club here in Cincinnati. They're throughout the United States and throughout the world who help support vocations. And when my dad first joined the Serra Club, I, of course, thought it was S-A-R-A-H and named after some woman because it made no sense to me what Serra was. And so over the years, listening to my dad talk about his beloved saint, I've bought an icon of Junipero Serra for my dad, and I think I bought him a keychain at one point. And he just has such a love for Serra. My dad was in the seminary at one point and did not become a priest, obviously, because I exist. But my dad has such a love for his experience in seminary, and he loves encouraging young people to try out religious life, because trying religious life gives you such a good foundation and a good experience for your faith the rest of your life. So he just loves Serra, and probably his favorite piece of his life was that he was bitten by a bug here in the United States as he worked as a missionary, and it never really healed. And I think he's really drawn to that because the man never gave up on his mission work just because his leg ached and hurt all the time. And we are talking about all the time. I mean, it was the 1700s. There just weren't the medications that we have today. I'm sure there was some gangrene. I'm sure it was just nastiness. And so it's just a beautiful thing to know that what a wonderful role model for us, those of us who live with pain. My dad lives with a lot of pain right now because he has pulmonary fibrosis in the lungs. That's another parent who has embolism. She's fine now, but pulmonary fibrosis of the lungs, and he coughs a lot. So it's quite a challenge for him, and he's been inside for 108 days. Him and my mom have not left their house except for doctor's appointments because of the COVID crisis. And so again, I think Sarah's just one of his beloved saints, plus Jude and a million other saints, because he's Louis, so he loves St. Louis and stuff. Oh, and we have Manny joining us, so we're going to explain in just a second who Manny is. And it would be good at this point. Hello, Mr. Manny. You can unmute yourself, and we'll have you introduce yourself. You're muted right now.
Actually, these things aren't working.
Can you hear us now?
Yes. How are you doing?
Yeah, so Manny, this is Becky from Cincinnati, Ohio. I'm a youth minister, and this is a wonderful program we've created called Truth Bombs with the Saints. And we get to the truth bombs in just a little bit, and we'll explain all of that. Today we're joined by Stephen, who's one of our seminarians in residence, but he grew up in California, so that's why one of the missions is right behind his head, because he's visited there. You know, he was
Very
just
cool.
telling us in California growing up, even the public schools, they had to build like little models of the missions. It's such a part of the state and growing up there.
Yes.
So Manny's
Yes.
like, yeah, I know that.
It was the best. It's like in 4th grade or something.
See,
And
you said 4th grade. Yes.
yeah, and they'll have you like everyone like you get into a group and build a mission and all that. It's the best. I think I picked
Oh, man, you got to do it
Santa
in a group.
Barbara. What was that?
So you got to do it in a group? We had to do it on our
Oh
own.
yes, yeah.
Dang. I should have
That's
conscripted
fantastic.
people.
I don't know. I feel sad now growing up in Ohio because we didn't have such cool things. State history is really not. Besides the Wright brothers, we just not a whole lot of stuff that happened in.
Well, you know, if one of the youth, one of the youth group members want to come back with the mission, they will attain the highest of 5s.
The highest of 5s. There you go. There you go. I was gonna say we're also known for slaughtering a lot of pigs here in Cincinnati and stuff, but beyond that,
We need our bacon.
bacon. Oh, bacon. So Manny, what do you do for NET? We love NET. We're very fond. My pastor is on the board here in Cincinnati and actually goes out usually when they do the trading and stuff in Minnesota. So Father Kyle Schnippel, we are big fans of NET around here. So what do you do for NET in LA?
Yes, I love Father Kyle. I met him when we were in training the 2 years I did net, and he was there. He was great to be around, great spiritual guide for a lot of us netters that go to training. But I do, to answer your question, what I do for net is I'm Western regional local outreach. So what Abbie does for the Cincinnati and the East Coast area, like I do out here in Southern California and the West Coast.
Nice, nice. So we always share at the beginning what we love about this saint. And so Stephen obviously talked about growing up in California and what it's like to have, you know, this saint and actually who influenced even your public schooling. How fantastic is that? Abbie talked a little bit about just being able to change, know that God can call you to a completely different direction at some point in your life. And he could have lived a very comfortable life and taught and just continued on in the higher ranks of the church and decided, nope, the Lord's calling me to be a missionary. And you know, Bishop Barron said it best when he said, to think that someone would get on the boat and cross the ocean to do missionary work to us would be like going to the moon and staying on the moon, because you figure you're never coming back. I mean, this is a big deal. To us, we don't think of it as a big deal, but in the 1700s, it was a big deal. And to think he would even live to make it to the United States to even do what he believed that the Lord was calling him to do. In the 1700s, it didn't always happen. So I'm curious, and my dad has been president of the Serra Club here in Cincinnati. So my dad has a huge love for this wonderful, wonderful saint. So I'm curious, what draws you to Junipero, Serra?
I think personally, so I was born in Mexico, and having that connection, that's where he started his missionary work here in the, they called it the New World. And so, I think he obviously landed in the East Coast of Mexico and then made his way up to Mexico City. And then eventually, I actually don't know exactly what path he took to get up to California, but the town I'm from, kind of how the highways are now, would have meant that he probably would have taken similar route coming close through my town, the city I'm from. So it's kind of cool thinking about that, and maybe, dreaming or imagining that maybe he actually walked where I was born, and obviously now I am able to go to those places where he did walk, those missions that he did build, those, adobe bricks that he probably placed himself on, the walls of these structures, these buildings. I actually was just in Solving this past weekend for a family reunion, and Mission Santa Ynez is right there, right across. The hotel I was at was maybe 100 yards away from the mission. Now, I don't think it's one of the ones he built. I think that one might have been after. I'm not too sure. But I mean, just to think, you know, I was there and I got to see some of the I think they're monks, they're Capuchin monks that run that specific mission. So being there and seeing that history, it's just incredible to me just to see like that connection where he started, you know, through Mexico, coming up to California, which is, it's my life story. You know, I was born in Mexico and I came to California and now I'm doing, you know, work here for the Lord here. So I have that special connection with him for sure.
Absolutely. So I know you have we did not pick Serra for this recording because of what's going on in the news. We scheduled this a while ago because his feast day is July 1st, of course. But obviously he has been in the news a lot. And it's, my father, he will cry about it. Every time he hears that another Junipero Serra statue has been pulled down, it's like a piece of his heart has been ripped out. A little bit about the controversy, because what we see in Ohio is obviously not what you're seeing in California. But why the controversy? And if there is a controversy, why do you think Pope Francis, I mean, I have an opinion, but why do you think Pope Francis went ahead and canonized someone who some might say, was he really someone worthy of being canonized a saint?
Yeah. Sorry, was that question directly to me?
Yeah. What do you think?
Great. So a few thoughts. I mean, like the work that he did was completely focused on Native Americans. You know, like his whole mission was to you know, to just bring Christ to them, you know. And so that being said, the Spanish were, you know, like saw them as savages, right? And obviously that is horrible to think that we would look at other human beings in that way, but they couldn't see past what their eyes could see. You know, that's the full extent of what they were able to accept. And, you know, Junipero Serra and other missionaries that worked with him were able to see the human dignity of all these people, right? All these natives. And that's why he worked to get things like, you know, certain rights for them, you know, in the state of California, even before it was, you know, part of the United States, you know. And so I think I find that very noteworthy, you know, and I think that work in itself of, you know, bringing and responding to that dignity is worthy of that type of honor, you know, of sainthood. I also sorry, I'm blanking out here. My thought just left me right now. Maybe it'll come back.
Manny, you're too young for that. I'm getting older. That happens to me. You're too young for that. I think it's interesting. The more and more I read about him, and the more studies that have been done, and you know, people who are archaeologists and historians go back, that it was never his nature to force faith on people, but to simply introduce it. And he actually, this is not a direct quote from him, but someone who summarized a few things that he said, that he believed that God was like a piece of candy. So if you've never tasted it, you don't know what you're missing. But once you taste it, you acquire an increasing desire for it. So the idea that he was not forceful, he was simply introducing is, I think, a beautiful thing. And how he really fought against the Spanish, those who were in authority, to protect the people from the Spanish, those who were in authority there, to protect them and to really, in the end, save their lives, I think, from a lot of destruction. And there is that beautiful, beautiful story that one of his fellow priests was killed by a group of indigenous people. And he went and fought that those men would not receive capital punishment, that they would not be killed and not be punished in that way. And even begged and pleaded and said, if I am killed the same way, they are not to be punished that way. That if we truly believe in the mercy and forgiveness of God, yes, they need to be punished, but why would we punish them in the same way, in the exact same way that they killed this this poor priest. And so truly then he was an early adopter of being against capital punishment. And this was the 1700s. It's just a phenomenal thing. And I don't know that we ever in the Catholic Church, and we never do, we never canonize people who are perfect, or else no one would ever be canonized. You know, I mean, we could go all the way back to Jesus's time. Heck, Peter and Paul's feast day was yesterday. I think those two men were not perfect. I think they were a little bit of sinners. And so, and here we are in modern times, and sometimes we have to think a little bit about, yes, we are not always morally perfect. Yes, we are sinners. But what are the wonderful things that we are doing for the grace, through the grace of God, and for God and for the people of the world? And he is an amazing example, as Abbie said, of being willing to drop everything and come to a new place just to spread God's gospel. And in net, that's what you all do all the time. When you're originally netters, heck, you could be someone from California ending up in Minnesota. And it's like a whole nother world and a whole nother culture. I know, Abbie, you're from Minnesota, so I just have to tease. But we're all deserving of the love of the Lord. And so
that was a nice accent, Becky. That was very nice.
Minnesota. I have a cousin who lives in
home.
Minnesota. Yeah, so I get to hear it just so you feel like you're home. That's so good. I'm so excited. Okay, Manny, if you're willing to stick around, and I promise you I will be finished by noon because I have a haircut appointment. So, you know, the priorities.
AKA 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. So thank you, Manny, for being up so early to join us. So
Love it.
Okay, so there's a game, Manny, called Truth Bombs, but we have adopted it to Truth Bombs with the Saints. So they're kind of quirky questions about a saint. So you kind of have to think about the saint and then kind of answer what you think he would have thought. So a good example would be, because Abbie Kohler has received this question probably twice of other saints, what fragrance would they be? Okay. And so for Isidore, you called it the work of his hands, and it would smell like earthy. And so anyway, we get a little creative, Manny, and it's okay. So we'll see how this goes. So everyone gets a chance to answer a couple questions, and then we wrap up at the end. And we have fans, Manny, kids. I have a young adult who listens on her way to work. She was so excited, Abbie, when I called out her name last time when you snorted, and I said, "Oh, Erica Rawlings, Abbie Kohler just snorted. You just didn't see it because you're listening to it." So it's fun. It's fun. And I hope that even though we're going to be going back to regular, it'll never be regular youth ministry. It'll still be different. That even over breaks, holiday breaks, wouldn't it be fun to do one or two over Christmas when the kids are off doing their other things and stuff? So this could live on for a while. We'll see. But Mr. Stephen Codekas, you get to go first.
Oh, buddy.
Oh, buddy. So we'll shuffle the cards. They'll let the good Lord decide what the cards.
We each get a different question. Right?
Yeah, you each get a different question, Manny. Okay. Now, if you hear their answer and you got something to contribute, you may always contribute. Okay.
I feel like there should be like game show music for this, right?
I do a little game show when I edit it. I put a little music at the beginning, music at the end. So yeah, and it's called game show. It's like a YouTube game show music. So it does, yeah. We're very high class these days. They were not high class at the beginning, but they've gotten better. So video editing has come a long way during pandemic time. Okay, Codekas, here is your question. Serra has a cool scar on his face. How did he get it?
We're still sticking with like these permanent markings on people for me, huh? Okay.
It's usually and I shuffled them and I still got that
So
one.
I usually get the tattooed ones too.
It's because you have tattoos. Like the questions know. Like
the Holy Spirit knows.
Yeah. Well, let's see.
I'm sure it's the 1700s. I'm sure he had cool scars everywhere, honestly.
Yeah. But So I think, okay, here we go. I think he might have gone, if he had a scar, he probably did, but stick with me here. I think he probably has like a scar like on his face from like maybe like one of like the riggings on the ship that brought him here came off in like a storm or something and lashed his face when he was like trying to put it back together. He has, like one of the things he said was like always forward, never back. So it's like this thing that sticks with him, like, no, we're gonna continue on.
Mm-hmm. Despite the blood pouring down the face, right? We're gonna continue on. There we go. I like that. Oh, and see, you even wrapped in his saying, Codekas, you're brilliant.
Boom. I'm on it.
Boom. You are on it. So impressive. Okay,
Stephen,
so now
I was literally thinking something about the ship as well. I was like, I wonder if he got it on the ship on the way over. Beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Boom. See, just
boom.
there.
I was thinking more like the bug bites, and maybe he got one on his face too, and like.
I thought he was like, he might have like wrestled a bear up here, and then
in
just
California.
like, it came after him, and then he prayed to St. Francis, and St. Francis chilled the bear out.
I mean, he was a Franciscan, so
Exactly.
Yep, he was a Franciscan. So there we go.
But
see, now you just learned a whole lot.
I'll go
That's
with
right.
him.
I like
You
the
like
bear.
that. I like Codekas's too.
And that's why the bear is on the state flag today.
The bear.
Also,
Exactly, tiny little Junipero like riding him. You just don't see it.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Also, I'm gonna start praying like that, Manny. Next time I don't know when I've ever encountered an animal and needed to like pray the animal away, but next time I'm gonna be like, St. Francis, chill this dog out.
Chill this dog.
St. Francis, chill that deer out.
Oh look, Codekas, he's always changing pictures. Now we got another mission behind us. Look at him.
Oh, that is cool.
Same one.
Brilliant. Okay, Abbie Kohler, here's your question. Ready?
Ready.
What should the hobbies section of his profile say? What kind of hobbies would good old Junipero Serra have had?
Sailing. Because I imagine
he was born on an island off the coast of Spain, so I think that's pretty,
And then he like got shipped over to Mexico and up to California. So I feel like he's the kind of guy who would pay attention to how the ship got to where it was going. Like I feel like if he wasn't, I would also say writing, because if he wasn't like writing, and to be honest, I don't know if he was a writer or like how great of a preacher he was or whatever. So I feel like while he was in transit, he would either be like writing, or he would be like up with the men who were like people who were like sailing the boat and asking questions about how to do that. So I would say sailing, obviously bear riding from earlier conversations, and building. I'm trying to think of what he liked to do for fun, like in hobbies. I would imagine, I have no reason to think this, I would have imagined that he liked to kind of play with people. Like, I don't know if that's like soccer or just like, to like recreate, enjoy the people that he's with and like kind of play with them. So whatever the pickup sport would have been at that time. We'll say soccer, but I have no idea.
We'll say soccer.
Those were his hobbies.
I like that. And I was also thinking, I thought you were going to go with the ship, a little bit of the stargazing, because he traveled, so the stars with the ship and then the stars as he went, north in California. I kind of wonder if that would have been. Hey, and he actually could have seen the stars. Now around LA, you probably don't see any stars, Manny. So
Nah,
this would be.
And I talk about that in our next installment with Scott in our next video series.
You're going to talk about stars?
Plug it in. Kind of, yeah. Not really.
Okay. That was just your teaser.
If he ever finishes recording his spot.
Manny, Scott lives on the other side of the wall next to him. So, that's where. Another seminarian.
It all totally makes sense. I also now more than anything want to see a mission style Hobby Lobby.
A mission style.
That's funny. Because I was thinking like, oh, maybe in his profile it would be like, oh, I love remodeling my houses, you know.
Yeah.
Just building, you know, he's like the Chip Gaines of the, you know, back then.
Of Baja California. There we go.
What were those logs we could build like cabins with?
Lincoln logs. Lincoln logs.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Serra sticks.
Serra sticks. See, okay, again, Abbie Kohler, we come up with the best business ideas. So now we could do Catholic children toys, and Serra sticks could be one of them.
We should, yeah. I
Just saying.
just saw like this like mass playset, like this chasuble.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God, it's nicer than some of the chasubles some priests wear. Like when they're like this big, you don't need a whole lot of fabric, I guess, so they're cheaper.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot cheaper. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but those kids playing mass, they are pretty cute when they do that.
They are.
So we always used Necco wafers when I was a kid. That was what we used for a little body of Christ. You know, we all did it when we were kids. So
Yes, we did.
yeah. Okay, Manny, you get one of the classic questions. So here we go. If Serra was an item on a McDonald's menu, what item would he be?
Oh God.
I don't think I've heard this one before.
I haven't been to McDonald's in like a decade.
Don't lie.
I mean, there's lots of options. He could be a sauce.
Like, I saw you last summer. I saw you there.
So he could be a sauce, but he could be an item. He could be a drink. He could be a dessert. There's so many options. He could be a French fry, but you got to have a good reason.
Oh gosh. I mean,
Because
you know,
this entire series is based on reason.
Yeah.
right. Of course.
You have to have a reason. Yes.
Oh,
Fair writing. Totally reasonable.
And there are no bear sandwiches served at McDonald's, so that's off the.
I know. Oh gosh.
That we know of. Maybe it's a new menu item.
Maybe it's only available in Alaska. I don't know.
Maybe.
Oh gosh, I'm trying to think. All right, since he was born on an island, he came over to Veracruz, which is on the coast, and then he was on the coast out here. I'm gonna say he has to be like a fish sandwich or one of those.
Oh.
I don't know what they're called, but
Filet.
there you go. Those.
Mhm.
He has to be one of those, just because, you know, he spent his life pretty much on the coast. So I'm assuming, you know, if you invite him, you know, for the fish fillet, that'd be his thing. You know, he probably knows his seafood, and you know, we'll go with that. Yeah, yeah.
And interesting that here in Cincinnati, Ohio, is where the Filet-O-Fish really got its start because of the German Catholics. No joke. And so the way that McDonald's would survive during Lent was offering fish sandwiches, because otherwise their sales would plummet. So it's one of the many McDonald's here in this area who helped create that, which is funny. What a connection. And this is why Catholicism is so cool. We influence so much.
Full circle.
It is full circle. But I believe Codekas, Stephen, you guys remember we did fish sandwich taste test.
We did.
That was one of the fun things we did during the pandemic because it was Lent. And I believe the McDonald's sandwich ranked pretty well.
It did. It beat out the competition.
I mean, so it was a good one.
The Filet-O-Fish is just a classic.
Yeah.
Classic.
Was it a blind taste test? Like, were they cut up into pieces and you didn't know where they were from?
No. They knew. And you would know if you've eaten enough fish sandwiches around here during Lent.
Yeah. I mean, this wasn't like a Zagat rating or something, you know.
No, it was just for fun and games for the kids. And their comments, of course, were classic comments about
the Wendy's was horrible.
The Wendy's was horrible. Yes, it was.
It's kind of funny. I was looking up McDonald's items like in Europe
Mm-hmm.
because they still have some different stuff than we do. And I was like wondering, like, oh, I wonder if Spain has any like.
Something unique.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently they have gazpacho.
Gazpacho. Wow, who knew? Well, I am very impressed, Manny. Yeah, Manny, for you never have seen these questions or whatever, very impressed with your answer, and you had an excellent reason behind it, so bravo. It's always hard to jump in on something. You have no idea what you're getting into.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah,
Thank
you have no idea. Okay, Codekas, you are up. Who would he have picked to be his sidekick? He can pick, you remember when the sidekick question comes up, I allow fictional, I allow superhero, I allow other saints. It does not even have to be someone who lived in his time. So if he got to pick any sidekick, who would he have? Who would be the Robin to his Batman?
Well,
Batman.
yes, Batman. Well, if he's in California, it would probably have to be like Zorro or something, right? Which honestly, Zorro is the like Mexican Batman.
Oh, that's true.
I mean,
Yeah.
they're both rich, wear cape, Anyway,
And Zorro would do well these days because he wears a mask.
he does. The wrong half of his face.
Wrong half, but still,
needs to be this half.
Yes.
But
So you really think a little Zorro on a.
I wasn't originally, but now I'm kind of thinking about it. Maybe Zorro.
Mm-hmm.
If we do like a saint, maybe Saint Joseph to help with the construction.
Hey.
Whoa, that's pretty fantastic. A little Saint
Yeah.
Joseph to help with the building, or maybe he'd teach Joseph a thing or two and say, "We don't use much wood. Here we go."
Yeah, they have a much different architectural style here.
just a little bit.
I think they
different.
still use wood for the framing. So
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
I mean, there's one right there.
Yep.
Wait, where's my finger? There you go.
Be careful where you point, Stephen. That can get dangerous. You're so weird. Okay, I love the answers. Excellent. Okay, Abbie, I don't know if you've had this question. If he were a kind of weather, what kind of weather would he be?
I would say clear skies. Because I feel like I'm thinking of like him coming over on the ship and just like moving forward, building the missions. I feel like he wouldn't have let anything get in his way, and not in a, I forget which saint we were talking about, and Becca said they were like a tornado or a Tasmanian devil or something like that. And I don't think
to look back.
Yeah, I don't think it was in that kind of way, but I think Junipero Serra would have been like clear skies, because he would have, like, I feel like he kept his focus on the Lord, which allowed him to be like called into a new mission, like halfway through his life. And then building the missions, like I would imagine despite the conditions of what was going on, he just kept his eyes on like, this is what we're doing. So even if there were storms, there was like this clarity of focus and purpose. So clear skies.
Awesome. Now I'm thinking of that song, Clear Skies, Smiling at Me, look nothing but blue skies.
From White Christmas, right? Or they sing it in White Christmas.
They do not sing it in White Christmas, but I'd have to do some research to see which one they do sing it in.
But I think isn't it in one of the like montages where they're on tour? It's not like at the hotel doing White Christmas.
Maybe in the little dance scene or something. I'd have to ask my sister. I don't know if it's an Irving Berlin song. Now you're gonna make me go do some research and see. But yes,
I like that song. Yes.
Yes, Blue Skies. I love that. Clear skies. I love it. And it's not gonna be clear here for much longer. I hear we're supposed to have storms. My headache proves it. It's gonna happen. Why are we now on the Starship Enterprise?
They went straight to Blue Skies when Data sings it in Star Trek.
He does sing it in Star Trek.
Yeah.
You know, the other thing is I saw the word assimilate when I was reading about the dangers of missionary work and stuff, and I thought immediately of you, Stephen, and I wrote in the margin Borg. So
yeah. Like
anyway.
A Borg is an IKEA Swedish vacuum.
It is not. It is not. Is it really? Because that would actually.
I have no idea.
Because I want a Borg then. Really want a Borg then. Oy. Okay, and to get back on track, because we get off track very easily, and it's mostly me. Manny, here is your question. This is what we're going to do, because we just have a few questions, or a few minutes left. Manny, you get one question, and then I have a question that you all get to answer, okay? And then we'll end up there. Ready? Manny, this is your question. If he designed a license plate for his own car, what would it say?
I had great answers for the other questions you gave
That's
Stephen
usually how
Daddy,
it goes.
and this one, really.
That's always how it goes.
Happens. This is the way it works.
Oh gosh. Okay.
And I could totally see him in a little car zooming from mission to mission if he had happened.
I mean, that's the thing. He wouldn't have a car. He walked everywhere.
Trick question.
The guy
I know. I know, but
he would have a license plate on his burro, if anything. It's like
the behind, kind of like flapping as he goes down the road there. Mm-hmm.
I'd be like, I think it'd be like an abbreviation of El Camino Real or something like that, you know, because that was like the way through the missions. That's what it was called, the Royal Way. So I think it'd be like an abbreviation to some like that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what
that
L,
would be.
like an L.
Oh yeah,
and then,
L.
I don't know, some Camino RL. I don't know, something. I don't know how many.
And sometimes they take out the vowels so it'll fit. So it would just,
I don't know how many letters you can put or characters.
I believe it's 7.
Is 7? Yeah, that's gonna be a tricky one.
And I feel like in California, don't you think in California? Yeah, you could do that. And I feel like in California, you're probably allowed to have more letters than here in Ohio.
Maybe.
I feel all the vanity plates got a larger population, so you got to give them more letters to work with it. So he could probably have a cool vanity plate, and then at the bottom when it say "In God We Trust" or something.
He's a saint. He wouldn't have a vanity plate. Boom, checkmate.
Oh, Stephen.
Again, trick questions.
Trick question.
I know. It is a trick question. Sorry about that, but that's just what happens with the cards. I never know. Holy Spirit works on them. So here's your question for all 3 of you. You each get to answer this question. So think, open that brain. Here we go. Think, Junipero, Serra, if he were a transformer, what vehicle would he transform into? Abbie, I feel like this is a bunch of questions you've not heard before.
Wait, no, the Transformers transform into robots.
Oh.
But they're a robot in a car, right? So it's like.
So he would go from the robot. What kind of car would he be?
Okay.
And they scan the car. Right?
So he's like the robot.
He's like the robot in disguise. Remember the little song Transformers? Robot in disguise.
He's not a very good.
Okay, Manny's excited.
Builds like 21 things.
Yeah, I think he would be like some sort of tractor. so that he could like dig out stuff and like build the missions, you know, like also, you know, I mean, I don't really know. I'm assuming he might have been slow at walking, and tractors are slow. So I'm just gonna throw that in there. So,
I mean, he had the bum leg, so I can see where. Yeah.
Right. So it's like, you know, yeah. So
slow walk. That was great. Demonstrate that one.
Got her.
You got her. Now, and they did teach these things, right? I mean, one of the things that happened as people started to colonialize the land is a lot of the native plants were destroyed, so they had to come up with some way to help people feed themselves, which was, you know, teaching them different parts of farming so that the poor people would not starve. So yeah, tractor is very, very, very appropriate. Very impressive. Manny would not have gone that way. So you just got 5 million points, which means nothing in this, but you got them. So we're kind of like whose line is it anyway, where the points don't matter. So sorry. Codekas,
I don't have any points, so it matters.
So there you go. Abbie, you got a car, a vehicle, you got something?
So maybe kind of in line with Manny, I was thinking like a construction kind of truck, but the one I'm picturing has like the hook that comes over its like top hood and down. Is that a tow truck or is that a construction truck?
Well,
maybe
if it doesn't have a bucket, if it has a bucket and like teeth on the end, then it would be like a backhoe.
No, it has a hook, like a big fat hook that you'd hook. Is that a tow truck?
I think you might be, what's it called? A crane?
Like a crane.
Maybe a crane? Maybe, a crane. So either like for similar reasons, like help with the construction. Maybe a tow truck to help like drag people. like
drag people.
Hey, crime. I'm not sure.
Crane. Not the swallows or return to Capistrano. No. Train's coming for you.
I meant like, yes, right? I meant like if somebody was like trying to get to church and their car broke down and they're like, oh, I can't get there. And he's like, it's okay, I've got a tow truck. I'll like help tow you. So much less aggressive than it snorted. So like, yeah, a crane. I don't know what that is.
You can also create
a crab?
With all the people who's like
Here
fingers
we go.
in the dirt as you like tow them away.
Wouldn't it be fantastic to baptize people like that, go up on the crane and then drop them through the river?
You have a crane. You hold on to the crane, just dip them in the in the water.
Always the name of the Father, and the Holy Spirit. It'd be great.
Hey, that's like advanced baptism techniques.
That's like group baptism.
Yeah.
You have 4 people hanging onto the crane.
Do you renounce Satan and all his empty promises?
Hey, that's how he was able to baptize so many people. You know, like what, 6,000 people or something like that.
It was.
In that case, just get like a fire truck and just turn the hose on.
Yeah, it says 6,000 people were baptized and he confirmed 5,000. He was a little busy, which is just insane. If his travels, if they would have calculated out his travels, how many places he walked, he could have almost circled the globe, even though it was just in that area. That's how often he walked and moved around. Anyway, I'm sorry, Stephen, got off topic again. So we have a crane, a tractor. Imagine a crane, a tractor.
Imagine we said he drove a 1959 Camino. Travel the Camino in style in your own 1950 vintage black Camino. The Camino says party in the front, business in the back.
Wow, the Camino. You are. Yeah, wow. That was good. I love it. I do. Abbie, I agree. I love it. So 3 very different answers.
I thought endlessly on that question, how I was going to answer it ever since you told it to me 2 minutes ago.
Okay. And this is where we got to.
It
Well,
shows. It really shows you worked on that one.
And it's like a
That's-
pickup truck also, so he can like get material.
That's what I'm saying.
you know?
Mhm. Yeah.
Party
Bring-
in front, all business in the
Business
back.
in the back, you know,
Then he
carrying
probably had a
around
mullet too.
a mullet.
Yeah, whereas the
I haven't
opposite
seen
is
that in any of the
in front
depictions.
And a party in the back.
And you could probably put your confessions in the car, like, you know, like a little mini confessional.
Your confessions. You can chase down non-chill animals.
Oh look, he could stand in the back, and the top of the car could be like an altar.
It could.
It could be like elevated and say mass right there.
It
Could be. And that is, wow,
That's
Yes.
amazing.
Okay.
very creative.
El Camino
You know, while he
truly
was-
is.
If he was
Oh,
waiting for the
okay.
church to be built, you know, sometimes they needed those alternative places to say mass. So there you go.
Really
I-
amazing how old this car
Over it.
is.
Yeah, you guys were on fire today, and this just makes me very happy. Well, we have to wrap up and say goodbye, which is always so very, very sad. But on a final note, may we all live our Catholic faith and proclaim Jesus Christ to the rooftops and to all the animals, as Stephen just changed his picture to animals. May we have the zeal. I love that description of Serra. May we have the zeal for the Lord as he did.
Mm.
Yes, 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 may we. Okay, youth ministry kids, check your emails. We have a bunch of fun things coming up. Keep yourself safe. We're praying for you. We love you. And everyone gets to say goodbye. Goodbye now. Goodbye.